at nothing all day. And we've been taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. We've been taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business. And I've been working overtime. Work out.
All right, guys, we are live. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments and questions as you can. As always, I need to take care of some business. So would you please subscribe if you're watching right now? Please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Then hit the like button to like this content today. And get it, and share it with your friends. And definitely, if you're watching this on the rebroadcast, the replay, please leave a comment. I will be back later and I promise I will hit your comments later in the when I get a chance. Guys, you'll notice that this is Keith over here. He's standing in tonight, and he's from the Punting is Winning podcast. And you guys can see they release their podcast on Monday morning usually. Am I right?
Usually by noon on Monday. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it's pretty good stuff. He does it with his brother JT, and they just it's pretty good stuff. And they always have a question of the week, except for last week. And I have to apologize, Keith. I didn't get to the end of the episode this week, so I don't know what your question of the week was, if you guys even had one.
Oh yeah, we had one. We had to deal with the basketball game against Wisconsin, and I think our question was how many points of the most points Iowa's given up in a game, and to whom. And I honestly would have thought it would have been 116 to Wisconsin, but that's not true. That's not the right answer. So
I think it's Michigan in the 120s. Am I correct?
Yes, it was 120. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Lost by 17. Actually scored 103 and still lost by 17.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Well, we scored 84 and lost by 30 points in Wisconsin?
31, something like yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, okay. All right, guys. We're going to talk about the Nebraska win. And so, Keith, the game started out okay. We started out looking all right. We hung in there early, and then I believe the announcer said it was about the 5 or 6 minute mark where we lost the lead in the first half, and we buried ourselves, and then we got it back within 3. Am I correct on that one?
Yeah, I think Nebraska went on a 16-0 run at one point. I think we were up 26-20. I think they got up maybe 30. Well, I think it was 23-15, I believe, and then we ended up closing out at 34-31 at the half.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of a mirror image of the Wisconsin game.
Yeah, except we weren't giving it up as many threes because
right.
They are a lousy three-point shooting team.
Outside of the one guy, outside of Bryce Williams, they weren't very good shooters.
No, they weren't. He was the only one hitting him. And I was going to say, unfortunately, he hit the game-tying one to send it to overtime, but it worked out in our favor. So,
yeah, even though I think we did foul him before he got into the shot, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, he didn't try hard enough. When you look at the way he fouled, I mean, the replay, he just kind of lightly grazed him. And so I don't remember who it was that went out there to foul him.
You got to make it pronounced, if you know. But I think they probably. I think it was Brock Harding.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was Brock Harding that was assigned, or it was close enough to foul him, and yeah.
Well, let me give some quick stats from the game real quick before we. So Iowa wins 97-87 in overtime. Their field goal percentage was 46.5%. Ours was 47.5%. Their 3-point shooting, I guess they weren't as bad as I thought they were, 39.13%. But we shot an amazing 48.57%. I mean, for a team that's been struggling to hit threes this year, that is a pretty amazing stat, don't you think, Keith?
Yeah, and a lot of that was in the second half. Outside of Josh Dix in the first 15 minutes of the first half.
Yeah. Okay. And then free throw percentage. Okay, this is what I was pointing to. Nebraska, 54%. God, you would
Terrible.
think if they would hit some of those free throws, they might have won this game in regulation.
One, all they needed to hit was one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like it how that what was his name? The guy who kept missing all the free throws, but he made layups really easy around us.
Was
Well,
that the big 7-footer,
yeah.
or was that the point guard that was really pretty good shooter, but just couldn't buy a free throw last night? That Raleigh Worcester,
Worcester.
yeah, that transfer from Utah.
Yeah. Well, we must have played against him then last year in the.
Yeah, he was on that Utah team last year that took Iowa out of the NIT.
Yeah, I'm glad we got him back this year. Okay. So we shot 88% free throw shooting, which is about what you're expecting from Iowa, but in the past they have not. They've been really struggling at the free throw line, which is untypical of a Fran coach team. And rebounds.
Yeah.
They had 41, we had 36. Turnovers, they had 14, we had 13, which, actually that's not bad on either part, really. It's about where you want them. In steals, they had 11, we had a 7. So, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. Before, I had us losing this game going into Nebraska because I thought they were too much like Iowa State. But, they actually weren't. They weren't. They didn't press, but their defense was like Iowa State's, where it's just suffocating. And the one thing I thought about their defense is how can they not commit fouls, guarding the way they do? And
yeah, I've wondered that too. I kind of felt that way in the Iowa State game too. It's like you're playing a very press, hands-on defense, and the hand checking should be. It's always been a point of emphasis until it's not, and this must be a Big Ten season, so it's not.
yeah, they don't call it anymore. It seems like you remember the one year that they did, and it just like man, there was too many fouls being called.
Oh, Michigan State didn't know what to do with themselves.
All right, so last night, Peyton Sanford again gets off to a bad start. He scored 2 points in the Wisconsin game, and
Yep.
I don't think he might have had another bad game in there somewhere. I don't remember, but so he scores 0 in the first half.
Yep.
Comes out and scores 30 and a half.
Yep.
So,
something he did in the halftime got his mind right. I don't know what it was. I've read that he said he read some Bible verses and kind of just sat by himself, collected his thoughts. Hey, that's what it takes.
Works.
Do that every year, every game. I don't care.
Yeah, same routine. Now I'll just do it for the beginning of the game and score 60 points next time.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Do you remember the last time a Hawkeye player, only in Fran's coached years, only one other player has scored 30 points and a half? Do you remember it?
Was it Garza?
No. It was Utah against Iowa State, and we lost that game.
Oh, yeah. That's the game we had well in hand, and then just
the second half
at the end.
Utah didn't score again in the second half, and we just didn't do anything the second half of that game.
Yep.
But, and I blame Utah for that because he was the type of player that was unselfish, and he didn't want to look like he was a ball hog. And so he just stopped trying to take shots during that second half.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, looking over some of the player stats.
There's got to be a time in your career that you just got to take it over.
Oh yeah. Ask Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, she has no problem with it.
She had no problem with it, and her teammates didn't either.
Nope. Yeah.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah.
Okay. Lade Dumbele. He only played 12 minutes, but I know how much you and JT love him in the game. Just from listening to your podcast. But he absolutely
I like him coming off the bench, that's for sure.
Yeah. He contributed almost nothing. 0 points, 3 rebounds.
I don't think he took a shot.
You're right. He did not take a shot.
I think 3 rebounds, 3 fouls, no shots. That's not.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
if
he
you're
was
going
a
to do something like
-5
that,
while he was in the game, so he did us absolutely no good. He was worthless.
yeah. If that's the type of game you're going to have, you better be a lockdown defender, and he's not that either. So
He's definitely not. Yeah.
but I just think his head gets right when he comes off the bench as opposed to being a starter.
Yeah. How about Peyton Stanford? 8 for 15, 6 for 10 from the free throw line. Isn't that a better stat for him? 6 from 10 instead of like 2 for 100 that he usually does. 2 for 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he is a volume shooter. I know they talk about that, and once he gets on a roll, he can really get it going. But I tell you what, when he's not on a roll, he needs to be very unselfish.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Sometimes he just, like, even last night, I thought, even in the first half, sometimes I thought he was taking that 3-point shot way too quick. You know, it's just like he gets right down there and then he just chucks it up there. He's not, you can just look at it. It's not even shooting it. He's just throwing it up there, hoping for a prayer. And you got to figure out, why isn't he just passing the ball to some other people? You know, let's move. You know, and a couple times I thought they handled the ball too much and didn't move the ball enough.
Yeah,
and
I agree. I think with him, it's more of he feels like he has to put the team on his back to win, and that's not necessarily the case. He can rely on who's got around him, and he's got pieces around him. You know, Josh Dix is a very talented player. They're all talented players, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you're off, you've got to be able to rely on somebody else. And I just think he feels like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders sometimes.
Well, you know, and Dix has been on a roll lately. You know, let's depend on him more. I mean, 31 points last night. I mean, we need more of that coming out of him.
Yeah.
Looking at the wrong stats here. Freeman had 15. I'm looking at his stat line, 8 rebounds, so not too bad there.
2 of 4 from the line, I think.
Yeah. He had 5 blocks. Let's see what his
3 or 4 maybe.
He was actually 5 for 6 at the free throw line. So honestly, that's pretty good.
And I'll go on record to say that last foul. Yeah, that last foul they called on him was just about as clean a block as I've seen.
It was. That was very clean.
Yeah,
that was very clean.
Horrible call.
Yeah. I think the announcer said something about, because when he went up and blocked, he got in the air, so they're going to automatically call that, you know. But I don't know. Some of these Big Ten officials are so bad. But
anticipation
Big Ten
fouls.
officials, some Pac-12 carryovers from last year.
Obviously, the game's too fast for him at times.
Yeah. Brock Harding didn't do much. He did go 4 for 4 from the. Wait a minute. 1 for 5 from the 3-point line. 1 for 8 field goals. 5 for 6 from the free throw line. 4 rebounds. Fouled out, it looks like. Only 8 points. So, what's the deal there? Do we expect more from him, or we just want him to be more of a ball distributor? He did have 7 assists, but he turned over the ball 6 times. So, does the 7 assists and 6 turnovers
I think his
kind of wipe
role
each other out?
as an assist guy.
Yeah. Okay.
In a case like last night, yeah, but I think normally he has a little bit better ball security. So I think his role is more of a distributor and less of a scorer. He can score when he needs to, but he needs to be finding guys, dribble, drive, penetration, and then kick it.
Okay. And Traore, he only played 10 minutes, 1 for 1 when he was out there, 2 points. Did it surprise you we didn't see more of him?
I'd like to see him be more assertive.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder if he's still got some lingering effects from that ankle injury. And I think at one point it was just Strand went with the hot lineup. You know, what was working.
Yeah. Well, I think most of the overtime he went with the same 5 people. Except I think
I think so.
I think there were certain situations
he had to switch it up.
He switched Freeman out.
He had to sub out when Freeman. Yeah, when Freeman fouled out, he had to sub out, and I think he went a little bit smaller, which
Bryce
actually paid
Sanford
off.
was in there a lot, yeah. Okay, so Kingsbury contributed nothing. Bronze contributed nothing when they were in the game. The other Sanford had 11 points, 4 rebounds, but 3 for 9 from 3-point land. So his brother was teaching him some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is 30%. I guess it's more ideal to try to be at least at 33% or better, if I'm not mistaken, is what they like.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to have games like that. I don't think the shots were bad. It just, there was a few of them that were in and out. So, I mean, he could have had could have been 5 for 9 if a couple of those others dropped that were there.
Okay. How do we feel about Indiana coming up? Next game on the road.
I don't like the fact that Indiana's starting to play better again.
Okay.
But at least we have them at home. I think that is a
is it on?
benefit
Okay,
to
I was
us.
thinking it was on the road. It's at home. Okay. And then of course, you and I just discussed this. They have the road trip to USC.
Having them home
and
will be
UCLA
good, but it'll be.
Yeah. And what about
Correct.
USC and UCLA road trip?
Yep. On that Tuesday, Friday.
Yeah. Do we fare well in that?
I've not been impressed with either team.
Okay.
I think we match up fairly well. It's just a matter of, do we play well on the road? And again, it's a situation like the Wisconsin game. Hopefully we don't see a team that's been struggling from 3-point line and then Iowa comes in there, the cure for everything. So hopefully that's not the case.
All right. Let's move on from the game and let's just talk real quick about our new commit, Isaiah Johnson. How do you say his last name?
I would pronounce it Arigu.
Arigu? Okay. I'll go with that. Arigu.
I don't know if that's right. I hope I'm not butchering that for his sake.
Did you get a chance to watch some film of him today?
Yes, I saw some highlights from when he was in high school. One in particular where he took about a half-court lob, went up one-handed, and threw it down over a guy. And I was like, wow, we haven't seen that for a long time at Iowa. So he definitely has the athletic ability that we're looking for, that we want to see as fans. I think his drawbacks might be that he's a little loose with his handles from what I've seen.
Okay.
Maybe not the best,
Yeah.
He's not necessarily a dribble drive kind of guy or slasher. He's more of a spot up shooter, catch and shoot type of person, but does have some post moves, it looks like.
Okay. All right.
I think his benefit's going to be from the defensive side because he's
okay. That's what we need.
He's got the long wingspan, so I think his benefit's there. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we need. So, he is. I don't know if anybody realizes this, but he is a current freshman at University of Miami in Florida, and he's going to transfer this semester. So he will be with the team to practice. He will not be able to play, and he can't redshirt his freshman year because he's made an appearance in 7 games this year already.
Yep.
He's definitely not a 3-point shooter. He hasn't attempted one all year. He's played a total of 5.4 minutes a game. He averages 1 point a game. His field goal percentage is 40%. And because he's only made appearances only 5 minutes per game, his rebounds, assists, steals, and turnovers are all below 1. And so, when he was being recruited by
pretty prolific
Iowa,
scorer in high school, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he averaged a little over 20 points a game in high school. So, I mean, he's got the ability to score. It's just, I don't think he's been used much down at Miami, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons why he wanted to get out of there, too.
Yeah. Well, the other reason is they lost their coach, and that,
right.
And if you look at, they haven't won any games, I think, or not very many. Yeah. Okay. So when he was being recruited out of high school, it was written that he had good touch, he could finish around the rim, he had a good mid-range shot, had good court vision, and some versatility about him. Other than that, I don't know much else about him. He did visit Iowa in September of 2023 because we were recruiting him at the time. And
Yeah.
so if he'd have just done the right thing, he'd probably be playing a lot for Iowa right now.
I would imagine that he's probably in there instead of Lodgy.
Yeah.
But that might have kept Drew Thelwell out of the starting lineup too.
Yeah. He got hurt again, I guess. And so
Yeah, I think he tweaked an ankle or tweaked his knee or something in
Wisconsin.
pregame warm-ups last night.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, he was ready to go until then, and I've seen tweets today that he's ready to go for Indiana on Saturday.
Well, that's perfect.
So
Perfect.
I think it was just more precautionary that it was limping a little bit, so wouldn't probably have been good to have him out there and risk that chance of losing for multiple games.
No, and he scored 24 at Wisconsin. So I mean, when you think about it, I mean, he's been having some pretty good games, and just at the time he's coming on, then he has to get on the bench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't think that you listen to the game last night. Nobody knew that was happening. We found out about it, I think midway through the second half is when I heard that he'd tweaked his knee or bruised it or something, and it was just a little sore because they said he was limping around in the huddle. So
yeah. How about those Peacock announcers for not finding out right away? They didn't mention it until the second half, I think.
Well, our own radio broadcasters didn't know it until the second half. So
they just didn't say anything then.
Yeah,
okay.
they were. I mean, Dolph and Hansen were both like, "Why isn't he not in there?" Because usually, if he's not starting, if you want to go with a bigger lineup or something, he's going to be your first guy off the bench. And when Carter Kingsbury's coming in, you kind of knew something was up. Nothing against Carter Kingsbury by any means, but that's definitely a spot where Drew Thelwell's going to come in. And,
I don't have any problem with Carter Kingsbury coming
injury.
in if we're just going to plant him at the 3-point line and let him shoot threes. But some of the stuff they asked him to do last night, I don't know if he's able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if they want him to shoot threes, then he needs to shoot them. He hasn't even done that.
He hasn't done that. No, he is trying to do everything within the flow of the offense. You can tell when he's out there.
Yeah.
He's trying to impress the coach and say, "Hey, I earned my my scholarship." But honestly, just like when the women send Taylor McCabe in, they're expecting her to shoot threes. That's what our Carter Kingsbury should be doing when they send him in there. Get him at the line, find his spot and feed him the ball and let him shoot threes all day.
Yeah, run some plays to get him open.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and that's the thing that Iowa doesn't really do. They don't do a lot of set plays to get specific guys open, and that's unless it's coming out of a timeout.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, we're going to move on real quick here to the quarterbacks and the new quarterback commit we got, but I want to first take a quick break right here. Just give me a minute to find it. Here we go. That wasn't the one, I think. Well, it's listed as the right one. Andrew's on. Andrew, is that a new one? Is that a new one you did? See Andrew hiding in the wing. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys heard, but my phone was going off at the same time as the. So anyhow, okay. I want to play some highlights. We got Mark Gronowski. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
Okay. New quarterback commit from South Dakota State. And I was able to get a clip of him today, and I'm going to try to show it real quick. Here we go.
Yeah. I'm steady focused on money now. I'm trying to count to 100 down. That's daily. Grady pay me. Amsterdam's no Slim Shady. Bank account going so crazy. Still live it up when I'm over 80. Flying, I'm hotter than Hades. Little fingers up to the ones when I hate me. Come with my fire in a motherfucking drought. Everybody lying for a little bit of clout. Stay making moves like I'm trying to sell a house. That's how it be when you're raised in the South. Mama always said that this money be the death of me. Money can't buy you happy, but I never seen a sad man ride in a jet ski. Time will tell, moving breakneck speed. First it was hate, now they got my steam. Took small sips, now they drinks on me. Commas in the bank, that's all I need. Business first and chill after.
Okay, that's all I'm going to show of it. I'm not sure if I try not to show too much because I don't want YouTube coming after me and taking the video, the whole podcast down because I showed over a minute's worth of highlights with that song on there.
Yeah, I remember about that too sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about him. All right. Just some interesting facts. While I was looking at some stuff today, I actually looked at what he did against Iowa in 2022. How well do you think he performed? We know the final score was 7-3.
He was not good. 7 of 18 for 70 yards, maybe?
Yeah, he was 10 for 26, 87 yards, 38% passing, and he rushed for a minus 21 yards that day. The only game that he rushed for minus yards all year, the only game where he didn't at least throw well over 100 yards.
And still won a national championship at the FCS level that year.
That year, yeah, he did.
The only loss they had.
Yeah. Now, if I'd have known that he was a possibility that he was coming to Iowa, I would have watched him a couple of weeks ago when they were playing North Dakota State in the semifinals. You know,
I did
watch it closer.
Yeah, I didn't watch him against North Dakota State, but I did watch him the week before against Incarnate Word.
Okay.
I think that's who they played. And, he does everything you need him to do. He's not going to be one of those guys that's going to go out and throw for 400 yards. That's not what I was going to ask him to do anyway. He is the epitome of, I would say he's the epitome of what I would call a game manager with playmaking ability. He has the ability to win games, but he is a game manager. He makes the right reads. He knows when to pull it. He knows when to run it. He just smart kid.
Okay. All right. So Lester works really hard to get this guy to come here, sells him on a vision, and I think one of the things that was said that even Kirk, he liked the idea of Kirk's culture. For the people that are getting down on Kirk and getting worn out with his culture and his style and his, and things. That's a plus, That was a plus. That actually helped us get this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much money they offered him.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
I say from the sounds of it, he was planning to go NFL, and they sold him well enough that he pulled back from that and chose Iowa. So that tells you a lot about what Tim Lester brings to the table, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I was looking at your background, and then I said I thought maybe my background was similar to yours, so I had to turn around and look. Okay. Yeah, and Brad Heinrich said today that they need to raise a lot of money. They don't have the money yet for him, that they need to raise a lot of money. So I have no idea how much. I mean, honestly, think since University of Iowa is a public entity, I wish they'd be more open and more free about giving their stat, being open, being open book on what they're actually giving these players.
Yeah, and I was reading some comments from Brad Heinrichs about the Cade McNamara situation. And I think there's some things, some of these kids are smart enough that they have contracts written up that dissuades them from being able to publish that, because they don't want that to be a driving factor in how the public perceives them. You know, in this case of Cade, I think we know that we paid him quite a bit of money and we didn't really get a great return on investment. I don't think that's to Brad's problem or Brad's fault or the coaching staff's fault. I think it was just, you took a shot on a guy that was injured. You hoped that he would come back and show that form that he had at Michigan, and it just didn't work out. And that happens from time to time.
Yeah. I can remember one of my football partners in the video said during the game that Cade got hurt 2 years ago, the first time for Iowa, and he went out of the game and he just got really mad. And he says,
Michigan
"Why
State?
can't I ever have a new shiny toy workout?" But, you know, we all know, though, too, when McNamara went out the first time, he still was.
Yeah, I mean,
Hello?
yeah, and you kind of wonder what his career could have been like had he not gotten injured in that game.
Yes.
You know, it might have been a completely different story that was written.
So anyway, Gronowski, he has 10,330 yards passing. I mean, and 63.5% completion rating, 93 touchdowns passing, 76 yards is his long. He has rushed for 1,767 yards with a 4.6 average carry, 37 touchdowns rushing, and his longest rush was 80 yards. Crown him the starter now, I guess.
And the most important, I think the most important thing is only 20 interceptions in his career.
Yes.
I think
Yes,
Iowa's past 2 years, Iowa's quarterbacks had more than that. Oh, I've got it here. It said something about, I think the past 2 years, Iowa's quarterbacks have thrown more interceptions in the last 2 years than he has in his career.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is odd considering the fact that Kirk Ferentz is a risk-adverse coach who values turnover margin, and you know it's been kind of one of the lean points for the team over the last 2 years is the amount of interceptions that they've thrown. Yeah,
but let's go back though. You're saying the last 2 years, but we got to remember Deacon Hill was Mr. Turnover. Yeah. I specifically cut that off at 2 years. But, yeah. And then I mean Sully he threw some interceptions, but I think just 2 on his part, maybe 3. But I remember 2 of them clearly when he was on the run, trying to run out of the pocket and trying to force a ball in. One was at the UCLA game I was at, and that was the game he got in. I think that was also the play he got injured on. And then this last one against in the bowl game.
If I remember right, he had 2 in the UCLA game, both to the same linebacker.
Well, we made a young linebacker look really good.
Yeah, remember, he picked one basically off the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so, anyway, so he's coming, and what do you think? In your opinion? I mean, we went out and they worked hard to get Hank Brown in from Auburn. What do you think is going on here? I mean, what do you think Hank Brown's thinking? Or, I mean, what are they're thinking on bringing in 2 quarterbacks? Because honestly, I think Hank Brown could have probably stepped into the starting role and done okay, because his stats aren't that bad on what he's played already.
Yeah. I think the thought process is bring in a guy. If you can bring a guy in that's a grad transfer, you know, Gronowski was a Walter Payton Award winner. He was 2-time national championship quarterback. If you can get a guy like that, you do it. If you can't, you ride with Hank Brown, but you sell him on the idea that this is your team after next year. You've got 2 years. We want to get you in. We want to get you acclimated to the team. We want to get you settled in. That way you have the best chance to succeed instead of saying, oh, okay, we're going to throw you in this spring. Hopefully you pick up enough that you can win a game. You can win the starting job out of the fall, or you're a quality backup. I think it just sets him up better for success if he's got more of that opportunity to sit and learn and maybe sit and watch a guy like Gronowski who, they're two different style of quarterbacks too. Brown's more of a drop back quarterback, more of the typical Iowa quarterback with the ability. I mean, he's got a little bit of escapability with his legs, but he's not a dual threat, but he can at least escape pressure.
Yeah. Well, this is what his stats look like: 535 yards total in his career, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So I don't know. 65% completion though. He's only rushed the ball 3 times for 10 yards. I'm sorry, 3 times and 10 yards total. And a 57 yarder is his longest pass. And so I don't know. I guess it's between him and Sullivan, who actually is the number 2 quarterback next year. And, and I know that Sullivan will be there for the spring, but is he gone after the spring is my question.
I think with Sullivan, I think what you can do, and I think you've maybe learned your lesson with Cade McNamara of you don't want to put your starter at risk for injury. So maybe they still keep, if Sullivan sticks around, they still keep that package in like they did this year. Hey, you're kind of a red zone guy. We get inside the 10-yard line, we're going to have that dual threat ability that, and we're keeping our starting quarterback more healthy by not risking him in those situations. And that's not fair to say that Sullivan is kind of cannon fodder when it comes to that, but I think he's a little bit bigger of a quarterback. I think he's a little faster. So, you work him into some way and you just don't put him on the bench and say, well, you're there. But he also has to remember, look at this year, you're 1 play away from starting. So if you're the backup, maybe you ride it out and say, okay, they sell me on this idea that we're going to run things like we did in 2024. I can live with that.
Yeah. And then, of course, Brandon Sullivan, in case anybody, he did have 3 interceptions. I just looked at it. He threw for a total of 475 yards, 3 TDs, 3 interceptions. He does have a 71-yard completion rating this year, or percentage, 59 was his long. He's been sacked 7 times. And he has a 154.3 QBR. Quarterback rating.
That's definitely not in the Deacon Hill range.
Not even close. Not even close. I still don't know why we went with Deacon Hill last year. Somebody needs to really sit down and say, why did we ride the season with Deacon Hill?
Well, based on the room that we had, maybe he was the best that we had there.
Yeah. I guess I never understood what was going on with Marco, why he, I don't know. He couldn't have passed any worse than Deacon.
I think that was a miss on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so,
I agree. At least have it running a threat, if nothing else.
So I see Sully and Brown fighting for number 2 and number 3 in the lineup. And then Jackson Stratton, of course, this year was 21 for 35, 60%, 219 yards, 1 TD, 4 yards rushing, 0 interceptions. And he started 2 games, and so he played 2.5 games this year. Right?
2-0 as a starter.
Yeah, and he led Iowa to the tying touchdown on UCLA. But then they came back right away and got a field goal. And I still don't understand with 5 minutes left to go in the game why we're not using KJ, our best running back, why we're throwing 3 consecutive passes on a 3-and-out when we had a chance to either get in a position to tie the game or actually win the game if we could get KJ to bust one. Anyhow, that's, neither here nor there. So let's talk about, so we're going to have a total of 6 quarterbacks on campus next year if nobody hits the transfer portal. And the other two are,
Yep.
one is on campus already, Jimmy Sullivan. And they say he's more of a pro-style quarterback with a live arm, has a quick release, can extend plays with his legs, and he's an accurate thrower. So let's look at the scenario right here. We've got probably Gronowski starting next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to call that the 25 season. 26 and 27 seasons are probably Hank Brown's. And Jimmy's going to be on the
Depends.
going to be there this year.
You're going to have Hank Brown and Jimmy Sullivan fighting it out.
Yeah. And so honestly, when I was looking at it, that gives, if Sullivan,
Yeah, I think there's going to be a battle between
Sullivan,
those two.
Yeah, and if Jimmy Sullivan redshirts his freshman year, that gives him 3 years after Brown leaves. And would it be the first time in a long time that we'd actually play a quarterback that we actually recruited out of high school?
It's probably the Petrus would have been the last one that we recruited out of high school that played more than 2 years.
Yes,
and he got hurt in the third year, and then prior to that was Nate Stanley.
Yeah, and both Deuce Hogan and Marco each had 1 game each to prove themselves, and they both left the year after they took us 2 bowl games.
Yep.
And then of course the final quarterback that's not on campus yet is Ryan Fitzgerald. He is a walk-on, and everybody knows he's the son of Pat Fitzgerald. It surprises me that he would end up at Iowa, because I thought Pat had a really hatred for Hawkeyes, but apparently he does not.
Pat had a hatred for what happened to him, but I think he has a ton of respect for Kirk Ferentz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's the reason why, because that's what the Sun said when I was reading the quotes from him about why he chose Iowa. He just said because he had so much respect for Kirk Ferentz and the staff, and he wanted to play for him. And so, but he was ranked as the number 54th QB nationally, and he is a mobile quarterback.
Yes.
And I believe he led, at least his junior year, he led his high school team, some kind of a tough academy team, one of the biggest schools in the state of
Loyola Academy. Yep.
Yeah. To a state championship. I do not know if he did it his senior year or not.
He said it led them to back-to-back Class 8A state championships. So
cool. Yeah. So he did it his senior year too. So that's great. Honestly, this guy sounds like he's a real deal too.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the measurables: 6'3", 205. Pretty accurate arm, pretty strong arm, and that dual threat ability. I mean, it's kind of like, I kind of equate him to being similar to like Brendan Sullivan, but with a little bit more accuracy and a little bit better live arm.
Right.
So yeah, I could see him he can, as a walk-on, he could thrive in Iowa's system, if he gets his chance.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to have 6 quarterbacks on the roster next fall.
I can't think that we will. I have to think somebody's going to leave, and I honestly think if any of them are leaving, it's probably Jackson Stratton.
That's what I'm kind of thinking too, because he got here late last year, and of course, if he's sticking around till the spring and going through spring practice, then he's going to get somewhere else late too. So I guess if he's going to go, he's going to go now.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's a situation, it's similar to like when he came to Iowa from Colorado State. It was a second transfer window transfer there, and if he does that again, he's probably looking more at maybe Division II or FCS level, because your FBS level opportunities are going to be limited unless you've got some coach that gets let go and somebody comes in and they just need to revamp the entire team, something like that. But your opportunities are very limited.
Well, I find amazing is with Colorado State, we basically swap walk-on quarterbacks.
Yep. They got Tuholsky, we got Stratton.
Maybe he can go and walk on at South Dakota State or get a scholarship there. Stratton, we can say, hey, We swapped him. We swapped out again.
We had a couple of guys that went on the transfer portal went to South Dakota State after in the last couple of weeks. So hey, I'm okay. That's a good program to be swapping players with if you want to get.
Oh
best
no, I have no problem. We picked up a D lineman or an offensive lineman. I don't
D
remember
lineman,
which.
D
Okay,
tackle.
from there, we did lose out on a wide receiver there. He went to Northwestern. But after I couldn't figure out why he would choose Northwestern over Iowa. But after I heard more details of why he went there, I can understand him going there.
Yeah, I think Braun was his offensive coordinator at South Dakota State when.
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yes. And then they are supposed to. They think they're very close to getting a wide receiver. I don't know where he's come. Chattanooga tomorrow morning. Sam Phillips.
Yep.
If they actually get him to say yes, and I think the prediction is pretty much yes, he's going to be there, but we'll know tomorrow. They're saying that he would actually be Bud Budmeier's first wide receiver recruit to actually come in and to the program. Because he's lost wide receivers and he's not brought one in except Gill. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, I'm not convinced that Budmeier had a lot to do with that. I think Sullivan did more than that.
Yeah, there's a freshman on the roster. KJ Parker was one that they brought in this year. It's true freshman. He got in a bowl game.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe a couple of plays, but from all I've heard is he's been impressive. And technically, Reese Vanderzee.
Yeah, Reese Vanderzee was impressive earlier in the year, and
he just needs to bulk up.
I think he just needs to settle back into what he was doing before, or maybe the other teams now know what to do against him. I don't know.
I think he was getting pushed off the line. He just needs to get a little bit stronger and a little bit more acclimated to the physical play of Big Ten football.
So we get him in the weight room and we find a weight program for him to get stronger and better.
It's easy to do that against the Troys and yeah. You can do that against the Troys and the Northern Illinois and things like that, but it's not going to be as easy against Iowa State and then the Big Ten competition.
Yeah. And then when Iowa recently put out a depth chart. I don't remember if it was for the no, I'm sorry. Iowa did not put this out. This was a reporter who put out his own depth chart, and he left Gill out of the lineup. And I thought Gill was coming back next year, and he did not have Gill as one of the top 6 wide receivers on the team.
I think he said that was a mistake, though, if I remember right, reading that.
It was.
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
Okay.
It was one of the beat writers.
Yeah.
I remember which one it was. Eichholt, maybe. Said, yeah, that was completely blanked on that one. He said, yeah, he would be in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I thought he had another year coming. Okay.
Yeah. From everything I hear about this Sam Phillips is he brings the speed element that Iowa has lacked. So that would be good.
So this would be a guy who could catch the ball at midfield and maybe outrun everybody to the end zone where Gill outrun everybody for about 20 yards, and that's about it until he got caught.
Yeah. But that's fine. We need both those types of receivers. You need the guys that are possession type of receivers that can get you the 10 yards when you need, your 3rd and 8, you need 10. That's perfect. But they also need somebody that can take the top off the defense, that can be a downfield threat. And I think that's what Phillips is. And from my understanding is very good hands too. Didn't drop a pass all year.
That's great.
I think he caught 78, if I remember right. So yeah, I think it'd be a good pickup if they can get him.
Okay. As we kind of get ready to wrap this up a little bit, I was just thinking, get your take on, we always were known as tight end U, and Luke Lachey didn't get a lot of passes thrown his way this year, and I just want your opinion. Are we going away with Lester? Are we going away less from the tight ends and more back to the wide receivers?
I don't know. Honestly, I think some of that was a product of, I don't know that Lachey was getting open, or if he was, that they weren't seeing him. The element that's missing, and you showed it in that clip of Gronowski that I really, really liked was, I think it was like the second play against North Dakota State. He kind of did that play action fake, kind of ran up about 2 yards towards the line and then just dumped it over the middle to that wide open tight end in the seam. And I know I've talked to my brother about it several times, that is a play that could be highly successful for Iowa with Sullivan at quarterback, and they just never did it. So I don't know if it was a product of just not targeting the the tight ends enough. I think he wants to use them, or if it was just maybe Lachey was fighting injury all year long that we just didn't know about, and he just wasn't. He was a shell of himself. So
yeah, that could be. I don't know.
I mean,
how
when the tight ends were open, they were good.
Yeah.
So
okay, I know I'm getting ready to kind of wrap this up a little bit. I think we've exhausted everything I wanted to talk about today. I just had one other thing, and oh my gosh, it slipped my mind real quick. I was going to ask you about. Well, it doesn't matter. I just want to just remind everybody that Keith does have a podcast, Punting is Winning. They release it by noon on Monday along with his brother, and it's a fun show. I usually find myself commenting and giving my opinions quite a bit on there, and so there we are.
Yeah, we'd love to have anybody come in there and tell us what they like, what they don't like. We're open to suggestions. It's our opinions, It is what it is.
Right. Yeah. And I want to just remind everybody, if you haven't already clicked the subscribe button while you were watching tonight, click it now. Click the like button, leave a comment, and don't forget to share it with your buddies. Share it with everybody who you think might be interested, because I share it all over Facebook now. And there's a lot of Facebook pages out there that I know I'm missing. And so you guys probably know a few more. Share it. Let's grow this thing. We have grown over, in the last month, we've grown over 100 subscribers. I'm pushing toward 500 right now. And so let's get up to 500 if we can. And I appreciate everybody who's doing it. I think it's time to get out of here. Keith, thank you for helping me do this tonight. It was a lot of fun, and maybe we can do this again sometime, and maybe we can bring your brother on with you. So anyway.
Sure. Anytime. Just let me know and I'll make room for it.
All righty. We're going to get out of here. Take care, everybody. Wait a minute. There's a couple of comments here I missed. I missed all the comments. Let me see. Let's go through them real quick before we leave. I had them hidden, so I forgot all about them. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Please go to Iowa's forum, click on join, donate. Okay. They do need a lot of money to pay for that QB and the wide receiver coming per Brad. Alrighty. Expert from the Nebraska message board. I like this one. That's one I've seen already. We can't beat Ferentz when he uses a fifth string quarterback. What are we going to do now? Oh my gosh, that's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Nebraska fans already worried.
That's one of the few sane Nebraska fans I've seen then.
2 of the 6 QBs are walk-ons. Yeah. We talked about that. Wide receiver from Aurora, 4-star. I think that must be oh, looky here. We got a comment from your brother.
That's an incoming freshman. Yeah,
lights it up at Elon. Transfers to Minnesota to beat Iowa. What's that? Okay.
That'd be appropriate for him to do it at Minnesota. The one place that I would be like, ugh.
So is this Terrence Smith, incoming freshman, or what do we know about him, or is he somebody we're recruiting?
No, he's the incoming freshman. He signed in this last in December. I do remember now that you bring his name up that he's going to be a good one. He was very highly sought after.
All righty. Okay, I caught up with the comments. Guys, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And we're going to get out of here and call it a night. Thank you again, Keith. I appreciate it.
Yep. Absolutely.